Hello everybody, this is Jordan Holt. I thought today I would do a quick review of the Avengers poster for Avengers Age of Ultron coming out on May 1st, which is in just a couple of days at this point. This original promo poster was released, I want to say it was about 6 weeks ago, something on that, and what really brought it to my attention then was how bad of a poster it was, and then also the changes that were made throughout marketing. So this is the original that was released. Because of that, it's kind of difficult to find a very high resolution version. So if I move in close, this is about as good as it gets. It's pretty pixelated. But we can look at this really quickly and look at some of the problems that came up with it. And this is partially from having so many characters within it as well as being inside of an action scene. But there's so many pieces of it that are just bewildering that they were ever allowed to be released. Movie posters are usually done in a rapid turnaround time, but this is even excessive. So, for example, our foremost character here, one of the things that we want to look at with it is eye line match of these figures. What are they looking at? Captain America actually seems to be looking at something entirely different than the others. He's looking off in this direction at something we don't know what it is, and he seems confused by it. Now, on top of that, all the other figures are looking off to this side, with the exception of these little background figures who I care much less about in general. But everybody else is looking in this direction, except for Cap, who again seems confused and a little scared. What's bad about it is he's the foremost character. He's clearly in the front. So it's creating a whole lot of issue in terms of just making the image confusing. We'll look on to something else to do with the eyeline match. We have a swarm of Ultron robots coming in the background. Because of that, and I can assume that they're surrounded, I can make that assumption, but in terms of the visual doing what it's supposed to do, it looks like they are completely unaware that they're being ambushed by Ultrons in the background. And that in itself is a little bit lame. So that entire battle scene in the background that's causing so much clutter should be removed entirely. Let's look at some really weird tangents down here at the bottom. For example, Black Widow Fist coming in just behind the title is a really bad tangent to create, and it's even less of a tangent, more of a downright obstruction. And even her other fist is coming out of Iron Man's rib cage here, so it also is obscured and is difficult to read because it glows and it meshes with the colors, etc., etc. We've got a very strong blue tint to this entire image, and it's kind of working against Black Widow in terms of making her leather suit stand out, especially hand over front of the suit. One of my favorite parts of this one was, and we have some weird character sizes in general, which I'll get to, but Nick Fury seems to be entirely unsure as to why he's here at all. He looks like he walked in by mistake when they were taking the photos. Doesn't seem to really be into the action or care about Ultron or anything, just looking for the bathroom, walked into the wrong room. As far as character sizes, and this also has to do with the perspective, they seem to have been pulled in from different photos. This becomes particularly noticeable when you look at Iron Man and how he stands out here, when clearly he's at nearly eye level with us. So the camera is, let's say, the camera's looking about right here at his neck. It's probably a little lower, it's more like this. But for all the other figures, we are really low, looking up at them. And so that perspective is askew. So these figures seem to be in relation with each other. These figures seem to be in relation with each other. But the connection between the two is different. So it makes it feel like a mishmash. It's certainly not ideal when it comes to putting this together. And the very last thing I'll mention, it looks like Vision is popping out of Hulk's head. Kind of like Athena out of Zeus's head. Now, kind of what keeps it with the sense of distance is the other small figures around them. That helps. But I still thought it was a funny positioning for the flying character. Now, like I said, this went through updates as we came closer to the actual release of the movie. They put in a little bit more work and re-released the poster. I want to show you what the change took place during that. We'll switch over and look at the new one. And you can see they fixed a ton of the problems that would have been mentioned. Figures in the background, they're no longer being ambushed. Vision has even moved over a little bit. Now it looks like Hulk is staring directly at him, and he's like a fairy, but that's another issue. So all those elements have been pulled out of the background. The title has been dropped down so Black Widow's fist no longer interferes with it. Captain America is no longer the forefront. Iron Man is. He's been pushed back to make his positioning, his angle, everything seem a little bit more natural. So it's no longer, he's still confused, he's still bewildered as to why he's here and what's going on, but the eye line is not as severe as it was because he's no longer the forefront character. So they have gone through and started fixing some of the issues that come with this poster, but it's still not very good. And I think that comes down to the speed that with which it was produced, on top of the number of characters that have to be in it. But still, let's try and do a little bit better for marketing for these multi-hundred million dollar movies. Seems like we could have a really inspired, a really creative poster design that goes a little bit above and beyond this mishmash of photos taken in different places, trying to blend them all together with figures and characters of radically different sizes, perspectives, clearly brought in from a variety of sources. So, as far as this one goes, the first version was definitely bad. For this one, I'd probably give it a nice big C-.